So, well, I'll just say briefly, if you win a prize in Hudson County in Jersey City, then your art is shown in the statewide show in Trenton. But that will also be virtual, from my understanding, this year. All right, welcome everyone to Art at Home. I want to first thank the Hoboken Public Library for sponsoring Art at Home. They are magnificent for supporting the arts in this way and allowing us to continue the art program even during the time of COVID. All right. Bonjour. Today is the day. It is Bastille Day. We are in the month of July celebrating French-speaking and sometimes French-American artists in our work in the Art at Home classes. Today, we are celebrating one of the most famous French artists of all time, particularly from the 20th century. His name is Henri Matisse. We will begin by looking at his work, talking about his life, and then I have not one, but two choices of art assignments that you can choose to do. There's so much. Il y a beaucoup de choses to talk about Matisse. And first of all, I don't know if you've noticed, I'm wearing my bleu, and un peu de rouge, a little bit of red, white, and blue today in honor of Bastille Day, French Independence Day. France, as well as the United States, the colors are red, white, and blue. But there's so much to say and talk about Henri Matisse. Many people consider him to be one of the founding fathers of modernism. He and Picasso are often credited with starting the entire modern art movement of the 20th century. I'm going to try and keep it brief. He was born December 31st, 1869, in a place in France, I'm sure I'm going to mispronounce it, Le Cateau-Cambrésis. I think it was near Nice. He was educated at the Académie Julienne, but that was after going to law school and becoming, he never really practiced as a lawyer. He became some kind of legal person in an office. And then he fell into art, and I'm going to explain how that happened in a little bit. He's most famous for his use of color, for his drafting ability. In other words, his extraordinary ability to draw. This man, every time I look at his drawings, I'm blown away by the fluidity, by the strength, by the simplicity and power of a single line that he makes. And newsflash, it didn't come easily for Matisse. He erased, he did over. It looks like it was easy for him, particularly since his lines flowed so beautifully, but it required work, as it does for most every artist. And I hope you're hearing me, because many of you in your own art practice frequently erase. It's okay. It's a good thing. He was also a printmaker and sculptor, but he is primarily known as a painter. He was one of the most revolutionary artists of his time, although ironically, he was a very conservative, fairly conservative, I should say, person in his life. He did have a few romantic extramarital liaisons along the way, one of which caused him major problems closer to the end of his life. But he dressed conservatively. He was quite the bourgeois gentleman in his behavior for most of his life. But in his work, he broke down barriers every chance he got. Between 1900 and 1905, he became famous for the intense color in his work. That's when this movement called Fauvism began. And fauve, en français, in French, means wild beast. And this group of artists, of which Matisse is probably the most famous, gained that name because of one exhibition that they had in which they used colors that were completely non-academic and seemed to fly in the face of everything that was being taught in the traditional academic school setting, art school setting of that day. And one art critic looked at it and said, a pot of paint was thrown in the face of the French public, and it appeared as if wild beasts had entered the gallery. And hence the name Fauve stuck. And it was good for these artists because it made them quite notoriously famous. I think it was Donald Trump who once said, all press is good press, even when it's bad. And it turned out to be true for the Fauvists. Okay. So this period in art history, the Fauve period, only really lasted about 8 years. The first 5 or 6 years were the period when Matisse gained most prominence and when he earned a little bit of money, and then it kind of dropped off and died. And he went through a period of where he was struggling financially. Okay. What else? Like I said, there's so much to say about him. He first started to paint in 1889. He was born into a wealthy family. His father was a grain merchant. He studied law. He worked as a court administrator. But he started to paint in 1889, and of course, blame it on his mother. She gave him his first kit of paints when he was recovering from appendicitis, and he was stuck in bed. He discovered what he called a kind of paradise. He was completely emotionally and mentally transported by the act of painting. Raise your hand if that's ever happened to you. Yeah. He was hooked. Much to the disappointment of his father, he quit his legal profession and he began painting, and he never looked back. In 1891, he returned to Paris, where he began his studies at the Académie Julienne. He became a student of Gustave Moreau. He initially painted still lifes and landscapes. He worked in a very traditional style, and he became proficient. You know, he was doing okay. He made images that people liked. He came under the influence of old masters at that time, as Chardin and Poussin and Watteau. And then also he became influenced by modern artists. These names should be familiar to you: Manet and Van Gaach. He fell in love with the work of Van Gogh because of an Australian painter named John Russell, whom he visited off the coast of Brittany. And Russell had been a friend of Van Gogh's and had bought some work of Van Gogh and gave Matisse a drawing of Van Gogh's. And Matisse said Russell taught him color theory, and he's the one that, he and Van Gogh are the ones that Matisse attributes to the fact that he loved color and outrageous color. At that period in time, Matisse had an out-of-wedlock daughter with one of his models. He went to London to study the paintings of J.M.W. Turner. He was a busy man. He fell in love with other artists' work and in fact went into debt, paying huge amounts of money collecting other artists' work, particularly Cézanne. He fell in love with the work of Cézanne. And he continued his own paintings. Again, Fauvism happened, and the movement lasted from 1904 to 1908. He became a leader of the movement along with Edgar Degas. Matisse had his first solo exhibition in 1904, didn't have much success. They exhibited together in 1905. There was much expression in the work and wild, dissonant colors. And as I said, there was a lot of brouhaha about this. They didn't make much money, although Matisse, his spirit was buoyed by the fact that Gertrude Stein bought one of his paintings, and that inspired him to keep going. And Guillaume Apollinaire, a writer, a poet of the time, said of Matisse's work in 1907, "We're not here in the presence of an extravagant or an extremist undertaking. Matisse's art is eminently reasonable." So that gave Matisse hope and inspiration to continue. And then the decline of the movement, the Fauvist movement after 1906, didn't deter Matisse. Some of his finest works were created between 1906 and 1917. He traveled to Algeria, where he was inspired by African art. He saw an exhibit in Munich in 1910 and went to Spain to study Moorish art. He visited Morocco and Tangier, where he was also inspired by Moorish art. And again, color. He saw very intense color, which inspired his work. If you know anything about Moroccan work, the tile work in particular, the mosaic work is so incredibly colorful. His friendship with Gertrude Stein and Picasso grew. They started an art salon in Paris, and he, along with Picasso, grew their social circle, which helped Matisse grow and experiment. Did someone have a comment? No? His friends organized and financed the Académie Matisse in Paris, which was a private and non-commercial school in which Matisse instructed young artists. It operated from 1907 until 1911. The initiative for the Academy came from the Steins and the Daumiers. And again, Matisse went back to Morocco from 1912 to 1913, producing 24 paintings and numerous drawings. His frequent Orientalist topics, such as odalisques, can be traced to this period. In the 1900s.
Okay, sorry. Sorry, Liz.
That's okay. I know you're going to mute now. Welcome, everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, please mute everyone.
Yes, I'm trying to find myself. Let's see, start video. Okay. Okay.
I, for some reason, don't have the capability of muting all. So everyone, please check your microphones and try and mute. I'm wondering, Heidi, have you made me co-host? Anyway, let's continue. So, where were we? In the 1920s, he was involved in many collaborations with other artists, particularly now Americans were coming to Paris that he worked with. He became acquainted with Albert Barnes, the famous American collector, and Barnes inspired Matisse to do the marvelous large mural. If you've ever been to the Barnes Foundation in Philadelphia, Matisse created a huge mural called The Dance, too. It's just marvelous. I really, if you have a chance to go see it, I recommend it highly. The Barnes Foundation owns several dozen other Matisse paintings. During World War II, Matisse split with his wife, Amélie. He was having an affair with a Russian emigre companion, and he had been married to his wife for 41 years. His son, Pierre, who at that point had become a gallery owner in New York, tried to get Henri to come to New York City, but he refused. He felt he would be abandoning France, and he escaped Paris and went to Nice, where he survived the war. Many of his relatives, including his daughter, worked for the French underground. She was, in fact, tortured by the French and was in a concentration camp for several years during World War II. In 1941, Matisse was diagnosed with duodenal cancer. So after that, for many, many years, he was very ill and confined to his bed. And at that period of his life, he started producing a whole new series of work. In this work, he moved away from painting because he could no longer physically stand at his easel. He started doing collage. And initially, the cutouts that he was making were supposed to just be stencils that he was cutting out and that his assistants would then use to paint his shapes on canvas. But people loved these cutouts so much that the cutouts eventually became the work themselves. And he did many of those. The first most famous series of his cutouts was called Jazz. He was then diagnosed with abdominal cancer in 1941, which left him completely chair and bedbound. And he continued with his collage work. He moved to Vence in 1943. He completed the jazz cutouts and created mural-sized work, Oceania, the sky, and Oceania, the sea, in 1946, with his studio assistant, Lydia, who was the woman he left his wife for. And in 1948, I mean, this is a man who is incredibly terminally ill, suffering probably from horrendous pain. In 1948, he started designing a chapel and museum, the Chapelle du Rosaire de Vence, and he designed the chapel windows, the chasubles, and the tabernacle door, all using the cutout method. And in 1952, he established the Matisse Museum in Le Cateau. It is now the third largest collection of Matisse works in France. According to David Rockefeller, Matisse's final work was the design for a stained glass window installed at the Union Church of Pocantico Hills near the Rockefeller Estate north of New York City. It was his final artistic creation. The maquette was on the wall of his bedroom when he died. And Matisse finally died of a heart attack at the age of 84 on November 3rd, 1954. So he had quite a life. He was creating pretty much right up until the moment of his death. Vive, vive Matisse. Any thoughts on his life before we look at his work? And that was the abridged version, folks. I really cut that down. Yes, Suzanne.
So one of my favorite sayings on Matisse is from the poet Baudelaire.
Uh-huh.
And it's very simple. I'll say it in French and then translate it. About Matisse, he said, "Tout n'est que luxe, calme et volupté." Everything is luxury, but it's luxury in the French sense rather than what we think of luxury, calm and voluptuousness. And I think that describes a lot of his art beautifully.
D'accord.
D'accord.
D'accord, which means I agree. Merci, Suzanne.
Avec plaisir.
Thank you, says Suzanne. All right.
Wow, that was beautiful. Thank you, Suzanne.
His work is very voluptuous and quite calming and peaceful, I believe also.
Liz, I had a question as well.
Absolutely,
so,
Jane.
Yes, thank you so much for that, those words, Suzanne. My question was just, as you described his beginnings, it didn't sound like he was someone who studied or spent a lot of time in, in a salon or in trying to perfect a craft, that it was very natural for him and he fell into it and then went with it.
Well, he did study. He went to an academy. Do you want the name of it? The Académie Julienne.
Okay.
He became a student of Gustave Moreau.
Ah.
He studied on his own. He was constantly in museums. He was quite a collector. He spent a fortune collecting other artists' work. He copied. He was an artist who copied, who tried to reproduce other artists' work, particularly Cézanne. He loved copying Cézanne's work. He thought he was a master of form. Interestingly enough, he abandoned a lot of what he learned from Cézanne, but no, he studied hard.
Okay, because you mentioned he was an attorney or he had another profession.
He went to law school.
Okay.
He had a job in a law office in a courtroom.
Yeah, interesting.
But he abandoned all that and studied art. He spent many, many years studying art and practicing art. Art did not initially come easily to him. He loved it. He found peace doing it, but he struggled like the rest of us.
Wonderful, thank you.
You're welcome. And when you look at his work, you would think that, it just flowed, but not really.
Yeah, I think there's something restful in this vibrancy. It's not a stressor. It's as Suzanne said, kind of voluptuous and alluring, but it's soft on the eyes. It doesn't challenge me the way other hands do.
That's wonderful description. I like your personal take. All right. Whoops, that's not where I want to be. There we go. Now, I hope I can share screen. I seem to not have, I don't have share screening capability. So let's see if I can get Heidi's attention, everybody. Her microphone is off. So sorry about this. You know what I'm going to do while I'm trying to reach Heidi? Here's our assignment for today. Because Matisse was a collage artist, one of the options you have today is to do a collage. The theme will be organic shapes, anything that you derive from nature, plants, flowers, animal shapes. Matisse particularly loved underwater forms, fish, shells, seaweed. He loved star shapes. The female form was particularly interesting to him. He did these odalisques. He did dancers. So collage is one direction you can go in. The other direction that I was going to suggest, and probably the direction I'm going to go in, is to do crayon or oil resist, where you draw first with an oily substance, crayon or oil pastel or craypas first. Again, the theme is organic shapes and lines, whether it's underwater, whether it's in the sky, whether it's a flower you have in your home, or if you're lucky enough to have a garden, plants that are growing in your garden, pictures that you may have of gardens. So start thinking about what you might want to create while I try and reach our librarian so that I can show you Matisse's work. Make sense?
I'm sorry, you said that you start with an oil base and then what?
Then once you have completed your crayon or oil pastel drawing, we're going to paint over it with a water-based paint. And I will be demonstrating that momentarily, Nomi.
Thank you.
It's called Crayon Resist. It's wonderful. It's kind of like the batik technique, but without heat.
Liz?
Yes.
Hi,
Karen.
Hi. Bonjour, comment ça va?
Bonjour, ça va bien, et toi? Et vous?
Bien, bien, très bien. Oh, did Heidi say last week that she wasn't going to be here?
Possibly.
Did anybody remember her saying that? Guess not.
Oh, she may be on vacation. This is true. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to call the library.
Andrew sent the link, so maybe Andrew is around, and that's who you should try and reach.
Yeah, I don't have his contact info, I don't think.
I can email him.
Oh, you have his email?
Well, he sent the link. That's his email.
Oh, I didn't get a link from him today. Yes,
Okay.
if you could contact him and ask him if we could have screen sharing, that'd be awesome. Thank you, Margot.
You got it.
Meanwhile, I'm going to call. I suppose I should have muted my, too late. Any more questions on the assignment, folks?
Hey Liz, we just made you co-host. I don't know what was, it must have just wigged out there for a second.
Who was that? Okay.
I am now unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So this is one of Matisse's most famous portraits during the Fauve period. You can see why it would be classified as Fauve. It's incredibly vibrant in color, particularly that green stripe down the middle of the face. It's a portrait of his wife, Amélie. And it's incredible when I think that Matisse was born in 1890 something. And he was such a gigantic figure of the 20th century. He saw enormous change in his lifetime, and he created enormous change in his lifetime. Look at his use of dark shadow here. How genius is this? He has not given up the three-dimensional effect. There is shading. He's definitely still tied to the academic training that he's learned. He's allowing the brushstrokes to show. You can tell Impressionist painters influenced him, but he's letting go of a lot of that. This flat red pane here on the left side in the background. Am I still muted, everybody? You can hear me, right?
Yes, we do.
Okay, good. I love this wonderful V here. Then the kind of V in the hairline at the top.
Liz, could you comment on the timing? Do you know if Matisse was got into collage more later in his career or earlier?
Yeah. Yes, we talked about this. The collage came after he became ill. So that was way later in the 1930s and 40s.
Wow.
Way towards the end of his life.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And the Fauvist period was early in his career. This was around 1905, 1906. And really, it was done around 1910, 1911. It didn't last very long, Fauvism. He knows his complementary colors, though, doesn't he? Red with green here. This is a very powerful contrast. The violet so close to the yellow-green. I mean, there's a lot of dynamic colorism in this piece. the violet shadow here next to the yellow green. It's a gorgeous piece. All right. Any opinions on this one? So we are now looking, this is his beginning career. This is an early work. It's not his earliest, but this is when he's gaining renown. I'm not sure I'm going to show chronologically, but I guess I'll try. I'm not sure why that's open. I'm going to show a couple more from around that same period. This one's a little bit later. Susan Monda, you are going to love this one. You're going to laugh when you see why. Maybe you know already. I think you're a Matisse fan. You might already know which piece I'm going to show. It's quite famous. Everyone see this? Oh, you cat lovers, Susan in particular. How gorgeous is this? So this is a little bit later during the Fauvist period. He's like, I could care less about true color. I'm doing my own color interpretation. This is after he's been to Algeria and Morocco. He knows how to use color. He's into his element now. He's been to Africa. He's been, did I say he's been to Morocco? I'll repeat it. He's been to Morocco. He's seen the brilliant Islamic tile work. Color is what he's all about. He is borrowing from people he studied before. Colleagues of his, Derain, also brilliant colorist. Van Gaach, look at the dark outline around the shapes, just like Van Gaach. Matisse's influence on the artists who followed too. I mean, it's just, you name any modern artist you can think of, Matisse influenced him or her. Now things are becoming flatter, more design oriented, less, for me, fine art. It's becoming more decorative, and I believe, again, that's because of the Islamic influence on his work, the African influence on his work. Lots more patterning. I think that also is from what he's looked at in Morocco and Algeria. And Japanese art. So a lot of the flattening of the perspective comes from traditional Japanese art. I failed to mention that, which was a huge omission on my part.
So would you say, Liz, that such work is, I mean, I could stare at this all day. It's just,
there's a lot to look at.
There's so much to look at, and I am enjoying every little discovery. The leaves, well, are they leaves? Are they hearts on the panel in the right in blue? But my question is, was he recognized for such work, or were there challenges to the fact that it was, as you said, in moving away from fine art and into decorative art?
initially he was vilified. Things were difficult for him in the beginning. He was not certain amongst artists. He was respected, highly respected. He was honored, but amongst art critics, amongst the traditional academic art world, he was not. And that's what happens to many revolutionaries and groundbreakers and rule breakers in the world of art. And that's been true for centuries. And without artists like Matisse, we would stagnate. Artists like Matisse, like Louise Bourgeois, who break with tradition. I mean, what can you say about this piece? It's just magic. Color, color, color. Why did he make the cat so big? This absolutely joyful presence dominates this painting. And again, the fluidity of line. It's not just the color, it's just the movement is exuberant. It just explodes. Okay.
I was going to say something. Hello.
Oh, sorry, Karen, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it looks like he's using color as value, and the different shapes and sizes are intentional to how he places things and how much design he uses, or how solid something might be.
I agree. He uses color to create depth and shadow. He learned that from the Impressionists. He's carrying on the Impressionistic tradition. You know, they rarely use black in their work. They use color to create depth of field. Is that what you're trying to say? Is that the message you think?
Not exactly, but I probably couldn't explain further. If you're looking at a black and white sketch, and you're going lighter and darker, and for shadows and for spaces, for composition, and instead of using black and white, he's using color.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it does. Yes, it does include depth of field. Absolutely. Yeah. It's easy to see it. I wish you had it back up.
And
yeah.
you can talk about it in this,
Right.
this piece. So this is still later, near the end of the Fauvist period, where his work is getting looser. The color is a little bit more somber in this. I wanted to show that near the end of the Fauvist period, he was going through an emotionally down, psychologically down period in his life because he wasn't making any money. And the color lost its vibrancy. So he was affected by his psychological state, as many of us are. And I thought it was important for you to see that in his images. It's even flatter, though, than the last picture we looked at, and I think it is because of the loss of color. The black, large black background shape, I think is really flattening out the image, although whatever this is, like the railing of a piece of furniture over here, like maybe the top of a chair, gives an illusion of depth in the piece. The image to me still feels fairly flat. I love the composition of this though. Hold on everyone, I have to take this. I'm gonna Sorry for that. I will say this, Heather, I have some information for you. I'm going to put it in the chat box. Can you all hear me? Yes? Okay. So, all right. I want to show you now some of his cutouts. So, not yet, Heather. Give me a minute. Okay, let me show a couple pictures. I got a call from someone you want to hear from. Sorry, everybody, for the mystery. So the cutouts he started making later in life, initially they started as stencils. You all know what stencils are, I hope. Artists create them as negative cutouts. In other words, they're meant to be used as internal shapes that are placed flat against a flat surface, and you paint the cutout. But eventually, he used the cutouts as the art. So these were made after his first cancer diagnosis, when he was quite ill and could not stand to work. So he would work from a chair at a drawing table. And remember, I said our work today is going to be based on organic shapes. These to me look like coral, pieces of coral. I don't know, you may read them differently. And one thing I love about this piece is that he works it with the geometric. So he's overlaying some of the curvier shapes with squares and rectangles, which for me is one of the hardest things to do in art. If you can integrate geometric with organic, you've got it going on, kids. I find it very difficult myself to do that kind of thing. Notice again the vibrant color. Notice the way some shapes touch, overlap, interact with each other. Notice the way some shapes jut into the overall composition in unexpected ways, project from the outer edge into the center, diagonally into the center of the composition in kind of unusual ways that are unexpected. Notice the way some shapes kind of float on the outer edges, on the periphery, but yet somehow relate to the other objects in the piece. And that's the whole genius of collage. How do you make all the shapes work together? And one tip I would mention before you start your own work, or if you're working already, you notice the larger colors that he started with, the orange background, then the large white rectangle, then the large yellow rectangle at the bottom, the large green rectangle. Those he positioned first. Then he probably played with all the smaller black, yellow, blue, violet, and white. He played around with where to put them in order to make the composition work. I love the way this big violet kind of octopusy thing presses in on these black rectangles kind of makes it look like it's shoving the black rectangles out of the way. I think this one may be part of his jazz series. I'm not sure. Could be part of Oceania. I don't know. I'm going to show a couple more cutouts. I see many of you are working already, which is fine. But some of you may still need more inspiration. It's almost 11 o'clock though, and I want you to be able to work. I'm going to save his most famous piece till the very end. So as he became more ill, and I don't know if it's because he was ill, his work became more and more simple. I don't know if it was a consequence of his illness. But things became simpler. So in this piece, there's 4 shapes. And that's it. And how powerful an image it is. Simple, bold, incredible. The blue shape on the right seems to be talking to the red shape on the left. And how magnificent are these negative forms? Again, he knows his color. The orange, the blue against its complementary orange is so effective. He lay flat on his back. He had a long pole with a pointed thing on the end of it, sharp pointed thing on the end of it. He would make his cutouts. He would stick the cutout on the sharp pointed thingy, blade, I guess, and he would move it around against the wall, against the paper on the wall, and then direct his assistants on where to glue it, where to attach it to the canvas or the paper. And these were mammoth. Some were horizontal, some were vertical. All right, I think we're growing tired of sharing. I want to, before I show you his most famous, I want to show you that he also did figurative work. And then I'll show you the grand finale, the big bang, that you're all going to probably recognize. This was also near the end of his life. It's so gorgeous. I want to cry every time I look at this. It's so beautiful. Anybody has something they want to say about this? Because it's perfect. So this is part of his dance series.
I just want to say thank you for helping me to see his and other works in a completely new way. I used to have a set of cards by Matisse, and I believe I have this one. And I found it really challenging. And now I see it completely different. I really feel like I can enjoy it and appreciate the mastery. So thank you for that, Liz.
Liz, at that point, was he bedridden?
Yes.
Which makes it even more incredible.
Yeah. This was made in 1952. So, yeah.
So that was a later work.
Yes.
He gets simpler and simpler.
He did. And I don't know if it was because of his illness or because I believe it was more, that's what he wanted to do. And he became so skilled with scissors, the way he was so skilled with line. He could do with scissors what he could do with a pencil. All right, here we go with this most famous, and you can tell it's a woman, right? Everybody sees this is figurative. She's in the process of a leap. She's a dancer. I think these shapes are meant to be her arm and this her hair, but it could be the reverse. It's not important to me. It's not important at all, but someone could research that if it is important. Okay, the pièce de résistance, as they say in the world of art, la pièce de résistance.
I just found the card, Liz. It's not quite the same, but it's obviously from the same period.
Good. I'm glad you still have it. You're lucky.
I'm
guessing it's from the Museum of Modern Art. Am I correct? Okay, so this is probably the most famous. And there are many variations on this. He did many of these. I think this may be from the jazz series. So these were the first, this is an earlier cutout. These were from the first. But remember, the jazz series was at the point when he was beginning to be bedridden. It was when he was diagnosed with duodenal cancer. I don't know what year that was. (1941). Oh, no, that was abdominal cancer, was 1941. The Jazz Project was 1943. All right. So would you like me to repeat the assignment? Yes. Okay, good. I'm happy to do that. If everyone could gather the materials first, though, you need either colored construction paper and scissors, glue, white background paper, or oil pastels, crayons, or crayons, watercolor paint, water, paper towels, brushes, and white background paper. And pencils. Everyone needs pencils. Meanwhile, I need to do a quick text to our fellow student.
If you're a homeowner in New Jersey and you're still paying for electricity, then you could be missing out on free government assistance to go solar. Most people.
Thank you. Any questions on the materials you need? Good. So I'm going to do a quick email here. Quick message in the chat box. Heather, I'm texting you now. I'm writing to you now. So sorry to interrupt you, Heather. I sent you a message. All right. Everybody have what they need? I'm going to now demonstrate Crayon Resist. And then I'm going to show a few collage techniques. We have almost an hour in which to create. Many of you have been busy already, which is awesome. And I hope you enjoyed looking at the work of Matisse. I think you could tell from my enthusiasm how much I love his work. Excuse me. My usual allergy thing going on. If you do not have watercolor paint today, you can also use acrylics if you have them. You'll probably need to thin them down with water, which is fine, with medium, acrylic medium if you have it. All right, so for those of you who've never done this with me before, or for those of you who need review, the whole magic of crayon or oil pastel resist is that oil and water don't mix. So wherever you put the wax or oil product on your paper, you're going to be able to paint over it. And the crayon or the oil pastel will resist the paint. And the line work that you do first with the oil pastel or crayon will be visible through the paint. Therefore, I'm going to start drawing with oil pastel first. And crayon actually is perfectly okay to use. In fact, it's probably the best medium to use. I might use both crayon and oil pastel. Brought my easel closer so you can see what I'm doing. Kind of dark in here today though. I even have the spotlight on. I hope you can see. Naomi, you can see? Good. So remember, our theme is organic shapes. I am a creature of the sea, so I'm also inspired by Matisse's underwater forms, and I think that's the direction I'm going to go in today. You can even use white on white in this kind of resist work can be really wonderful, because remember, wherever you draw, it's going to show through the paint. And if you're doing underwater and you're painting over the line and the shapes that you're drawing with a darker color, the white lines are going to show through, and it's really, really beautiful. So I think I'm going to start with white. You want to press pretty heavy and make the crayon or oil pastel or craypa work pretty thick, and make your lines broad and wide. I'm thinking about those coral shapes, those fabulous, fabulous, fun, funky coral shapes Matisse made. I guess they were, what would you say, they were branch corals. And this, I'm not looking at a piece of coral, so this is completely from my imagination. Usually I tell you not to do that, but today, please do. You can work from your imagination today. So I press down so hard with my oil pastel, I have to peel the paper off. I wouldn't recommend coloring in your shapes with the oil pastel, because then you're going to have less chance to use your paint. Remember, wherever you use the oil or waxy medium, the paint is not going to stick. It's going to resist the paint. So you want to do more line work with the crayon. Less coloring, more line. You can go with the vibrant, more vibrant color with your paint. I think I'm going to add some what I call hot green or acid green, or grass green, I guess you could call it. I'll make a few small coral shapes. Again, you want to press down, make your lines thick and wide and dark. Everyone good? Okay, so now I'm going to add some paint so you can see what happens. And I'm going to use watercolor. I really want to do more drawing, but in the interest of time, I need to show you what comes next. I'm going to do a little drawing first. Sorry about that. I want to add one more thing. Although you probably can't even see it. So maybe I'll add two more things. I'm going to put some red. Okay, so now I'm going to add paint. I'm thinking underwater, so I'm going to stay in the blue-green family. And let's see what happens. Those of you who are new to this technique, you might want to stop for a moment and watch. You don't have to. You can now paint right over what you've drawn. And if you did white on white, you should be able to see those lines emerge now. If you're using acrylic, just a reminder, you probably want to use more water or more medium than paint. Keep your paint thin. It's so dark in this room. Sorry, everyone. It's hard to see what I'm doing. What a shame.
It's really not, Liz.
You can see?
Very, very well.
I'm seeing just one big glary thing. Is that better?
It's very good. The camera does you justice.
Ah, me? I don't care. I want you to be able to see what's on the easel, but thanks. One of the most fun things about doing a resist technique is you don't have to be careful at all with your paint. You can be as sloppy and as loose as you wish. I love watching, and this doesn't happen if you're working on a flat surface, but working vertically like this, the paint runs as if it were a road. The paint is running along the oil pastel lines that I've drawn. It's really fun to watch. If the lines you created are not showing up as much as you like, then add more paint. Make the contrast, make your paint darker. But as always, I recommend starting light. Make your first coat thin. You can always add more dark paint later as you go. Those of you with young children in your lives, this is just the funnest thing to do with kids. I'm not done, near done as usual, and that's okay. But I wanted to spend just a couple minutes talking about collage. Oh, we have somebody new here waiting to come in. Hi, welcome Krishna. Our class, unfortunately, is almost over, but welcome. Welcome to Art at Home. We are being inspired by the work of Henri Matisse. And some of us are doing collage and some of us are doing a technique called Crayon Resist.
Okay. Anyway, I do not have the material, so I just thought I'll at least watch what you're doing.
You are more than welcome to watch. You might have some of the materials at home.
I might, yes.
So I have just finished something called Crayon Resist, where I draw first in crayon and then I paint over the top of it. And I do have an image behind me on the easel. It's not very easy to see. My theme was underwater, where I drew large pieces of branch coral with crayon first and then painted over the top of it with watercolor. The idea is that wherever you paint or wherever you draw with the wax, the paint will push it or resist it, push it away or resist it. And the lines that you drew with the crayon will show through. And now I'm about to talk about collage techniques. And then we're going to stop to share work and talk about what we're going to do next week. So welcome, and I hope next week you can join us perhaps a little
Yeah, surely I will try, definitely.
Perhaps you can come a little early. You are welcome at any time, though.
Yeah.
All
Next week at the same time?
We start every week at 10 a.m.
All right, thank you.
10 a.m. until 12 noon.
All right.
And some of us come a little bit early to share our work. You're able to sign on. If you register in advance, you are able to sign on around 10:50 or 10:45. Okay, collage. Now, I didn't start with collage today because many of you have done it before. But with collage, it's always best to cut multiple shapes first, then play around, move the shapes around on your background paper before you start attaching and gluing them down. Always a good strategy. It's very difficult to peel off what you've already glued down. It's a good idea to have many different kinds of paper, all different colors. It's great to have, if you're inspired by someone like Henri Matisse, having paper with pattern on it is terrific too. You can collage with fabric as well. Magazine pictures are terrific. And if you use magazine pictures, I would recommend that you don't look at the pictures or the images in the magazine photos. Look at them for the color that you see in the images. I don't really have time to create something for you today, but here's what I would do to start. I would cut out, probably would start with the organic shapes since that is our theme for today. I would cut out my coral type shapes first. And if you really fall in love with collage work, you want to invest in good scissors. And there are all kinds of adhesives. You can use anything from cheap glue sticks like this that you can get in any supermarket to different kinds of cements that you can get in art supply stores or online art stores. But I would start by cutting out organic forms like this in multiple colors. With Matisse in mind, I would integrate my organic shapes with more geometric forms. If you remember from the images that we looked at on screen, he loved putting his organic shapes up against rectangular backgrounds, for example. That's something that you could do as well. And my recommendation is that you glue these kind of geometric shapes to your white background paper first, and then put your smaller organic shapes second. I see people are stitching. Awesome. There's all kinds of stuff going on today. So I really don't have much more time to talk about collage work with you today, but we've done a lot of that in the past. If we will do more in the future, and you can go back to the videotapes of past classes and see more about collage. Okay. And Heather, sorry to interrupt, but I replied to your text. Oh, and Susan's already gone. Sorry, she had to leave. Okay, I'm going to share with you in a moment who our artist is for next week, and then we can share. And someone is not muted. If you could please mute yourself. Oh, we're going to go back in time just a little bit next week to a very popular artist. I'm going to put his name in the chat box for you. Momentarily. That's weird. Heather, did you get my message to you?
On the phone or the chat?
The chat.
Hold on.
For some reason, oh, never mind.
Yeah, I see it.
I thought I was having a problem with my chat, but I've just
I
figured
see
out.
it. I see it. Thank you. You know what? Bob had called him, so I have to call. He probably doesn't recognize the name.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we're good on that. Okay.
Yes.
And right now, everyone, I am typing the name of the artist for next week. And sending it to you all. And Krishna, if you are interested, I send out an email to all the participants of this class a few days before we have the class.
Okay.
In it, I list the materials that you can use.
Okay.
And some biographical information about the artist, and I send a few images about the artist that we're going to look at.
Sounds good.
If you want me to have your email address, do you know how to put it in the chat box so only
I'll do it right away.
Marvelous. So I will then take it down and I will put you on our email list. Thank you. All right, so Edgar Degas is our artist for next week. I haven't decided what materials we're going to use or what project as yet, but I'm leaning towards soft pastels, but I'm guessing that many of you do not have them. So I'm not sure what we're going to do. If you are lucky enough to have soft pastels, thank you, Krishna, for your email.
Thank you so much for including me.
Of course, and you are welcome. Okay, and I'm going to give everyone my email address again, just in case you don't have it. Whoops, yeah, there it is. So I just put my email address in the chat box for those of you who may not have it. And Krishna, if you don't get an email from me by next Monday, please contact me at the email address I just shared. All right. So I hope that you found Henri Matisse as wonderful as I did, and he really got your creative juices flowing. Is there anyone who'd like to share? No one wants to stop. That's always a good sign. It means you've been having fun.
I can share.
Karen, go ahead. Give me 1 minute to spotlight you. Here we go.
Yeah. Hi. This class was great, and I'm so glad you told us about Matisse.
My pleasure. Avec mon plaisir.
Merci bien beaucoup.
De rien.
But let's see. I wish I could say this in French, but I can't. My French isn't that good. This is
it's not French class.
Oh, okay. Well, if you have one, I'll join that one too. I need practice. This is from a photo of a friend of mine who I used to paint with, and she passed away, and I really miss her.
we were at the Conservancy Garden, and she was just a wonderful picture of her with her head flung back in her hat. And I just really didn't have anything in mind except to use a lot of color.
And this is watercolor, Karen?
This is, I had a lot of things out trying them. What worked for the color were their Derwent ink tints.
Oh, inks. Nice.
Well, it's
That's
their
why the colors.
Yeah, the
so
they're pencils though, and they're really wonderful.
Yeah.
Because you can draw and then you just paint over them and they spread, and they are very great colors. I have something else that I did that I wonder if I could.
Can I make one suggestion about this piece, if you don't mind? So I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I love the little bit of pattern in her blouse. I think that's really inspired. I love the black outline, the thin black outline on many of the shapes that you have. I have one suggestion. In the bottom left, it's your left, very bottom, I feel a need to have a shape there. Not necessarily something bright, but something small.
Here or?
Yeah, right where your left hand is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
What?
I can do that. Something small.
Yeah.
Oh, I can go back like that. Okay. Yeah, there's sort of nothing there. Got it.
Otherwise, I think it's perfect. I love it.
Okay. I was looking at a through on my desk, and I had this painting, and I'm just, if I have it quickly. Actually, you know, probably I'll show you next time. I didn't realize that you started the class early for shares, but I'm done.
Anyone can come early at 10. If there's a librarian to let you in, you can come at 10:45.
Okay, I wasn't aware. So I would like to do that.
Yeah, everybody, I hope you all heard that. Good. All right. Anyone else? Thank you for sharing. That was great, Karen. No one's looking up. Robin?
I just want to say, I'm just learning about Crayon, and I used too much of it. This was just neat.
Oh my! Isn't it wonderful?
It's like it forces you to just build on it. It starts as one thing and another. I used too much Crayon, so I didn't get that much color from the paint.
Yes.
But nonetheless, I just am learning about how to use it and how it layers and how it pulls. You know, you get different colors on your stick of color, so that starts shading in without your even planning.
That's fine. That's fine. And I think I mentioned to you in my email, I don't know if you saw it even before class, but
yeah.
Crayon is a little denser than oil pastel too. It's a little less, I'm not sure if there's an adjective for it, but it's a little stickier.
It is, absolutely.
Than oil pastel. So I'm not sure, it's part of the manufacturing process. So yeah, if you want to use it for the resist technique, less would be more.
Cool. Yes.
But that's a beautiful piece that you just showed us.
Thank you.
It does lend itself to layering.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And it becomes something different than you start with.
Every layer you put on. Yep.
Yeah. So thank you.
I love how you experiment all the time. That's what art is all about.
It's definitely, yes. Well, thank you.
And remember later that period in Matisse's life when he was not using that much color. So don't be upset that your color is not all that vibrant in this piece. Naomi, you're looking straight at the camera. Did you want to share? Wow, talk about color. Oh, and spirals, my favorite thing. Did you use crayon first? You're muted, hon.
I did, but not enough. Apparently, they're not as thick as they wanted them to be, the layer.
Yeah, you have to make the lines wide and broad.
Exactly. Exactly.
But that's a beautiful piece. Hold it up again, please. Oh, I like it this way. I like this direction very much. Turn it vertically, please. Also nice.
Yeah, I feel I'm doodling.
Well, a lot of art is about that. A lot of art is about that. Experiment, experiment, experiment. That's what I did during the pandemic, was doodle, doodle, doodle. From doodles grows bigger things.
Oh, no.
Well done. Thank you for sharing. You'll have 5 minutes. SD. Come on, SD. You know you want to share. No.
Wow. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yes.
For
Yes, but you're shaking your head.
I'm shaking and I'm saying yes. At
Oh, you
the
turned off your camera.
same time.
All right, that's a definite no. Suzanne.
Yeah. This is the one that. What did I do?
Oh, SD, you do want to share.
That's my Matisse.
I love, yeah, something's wrong. You keep going in and out. Something's wrong with your Zoom.
I.
Is it Tommy?
It keeps freezing. I love it. I love the background, especially.
Yeah, never. Okay, I don't know.
Yeah, your Zoom keeps freezing.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, here.
Okay. Now there's no art, but you're okay. Nope, you're frozen.
Oh, drawing the same colors, I think.
Yeah,
Can you see?
can see. Yes.
Okay. And I finished my last week's, I painted over my sewing project.
Do you want to share that?
I did.
Your
Thank
Zoom is all funny. So it's hard. It's hard to see. Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you for trying to share.
Next time.
Yes, next time. All right. Thank you. Margot? Oh, Margot's gone. Heather?
Not yet.
Okay. Jane? Yay! Okay. Are you going to hold it up? You're spotlighted. But you're muted.
Sticky fingers. So I'm working on my art book from the workshop in
Oh, in the park?
yeah, and it's going to be a dedication to my little kitty who passed away in June.
Aww.
And I'm just doing some collage with some of the condolence cards that I got. And
Hold it up again. That was too fast.
I've got a lot of things stuck inside. Sorry.
Oh.
So this is the back, and I've added some pieces. I forget where the last piece is that I'm going to add. Oh, yes. I'm just having fun doing a little collage. And this is the front of the book.
It's beautiful.
Not yet done.
Beautiful, beautiful.
So getting there.
Wow, this is lovely.
Can you?
Thank you.
Yeah, it's just lovely.
Yeah, I'm trying to be okay with whatever I feel like doing. Like I grabbed some pencils, some markers, and then I cut a piece of cloth. It's very funny. Like, and then I ended up adding to the collage. So.
Well, good.
Yeah, thank you.
Is that the cover of your book?
Yeah, that's the cover. And then I'm going to do some interesting things inside. I still have to pierce the cover, and then I'll put some leaves inside.
Oh, I see.
And maybe some more, maybe some painting, maybe some photos and artwork.
Marvelous.
So
Doing the collages in keeping with Matisse, so. And I hope you find it healing. Oh, Heather, are you in the mood? Awesome. We have 1 minute left. Yeah. Look at this. So collage, but you painted your paper. So
what I did first the resist and then tore then collaged it.
Yeah, and this is something I forgot to mention. Matisse created his own paper.
Wow.
Everyone. So he painted his paper that he used in his collage work. So Heather, you did all the steps that Matisse would have done. Like the composition of this.
My light.
Is it underwater or sky?
Yeah.
I see the figure, the dancer in the middle. That's very.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's just wonderful.
Turn it another direction, please.
This like, oh.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, look at that.
Gives a whole new dimension to the picture.
That's.
I kind of like it like that.
I like it like that.
Yeah.
Wow, that is beautiful.
Heather, you need to, I know it's toxic, but you need to start looking into getting cement. You know?
Cement. Oh, cement.
Rubber cement, some kind of.
Oh, rubber
know.
cement. Yeah, I mean, I'm just using,
glue stick.
Yeah, but you want to get into the real collage.
It has a quality of stained glass, Heather.
Heather,
No,
could you hold it up again? I didn't realize it was collage. I thought you painted it.
Well, I did. I painted it, but I also ripped it. I often rip.
I see the yeah.
Oh,
beautiful, Heather.
Glued it down.
Your waves.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Oh.
Well done. All right, my favorite artists on the planet. It is time to say goodbye. À bientôt, as we say in French. Until later, I will see you soon.
Okay.
Merci beaucoup.
Bisous, bisous.
Thank you, Liz. Thanks.
Tout à l'heure.
Beautiful
À
work.
tout à l'heure. Merci, everyone. Thank you so much for a wonderful class. Go eat some croissant for Bastille Day. And I will see you next week. Edgar Degas is our next French artist. Bonne chance.
Bonne chance.
Thank you all for coming. Merci. And Margot, you have a great trip.
Okay, thanks.
Say hi to your sister. It's been a few weeks. Is she okay, Margot?
She's got, therapy, I think. That's why she's missing the class. But I mean, she's doing good for, what she's going through.
Okay. And you feel free to tell me. I'm sick of people asking me about my sister. I've been there. I got a sister too.
Good. We should all have.
But send her our love.
I will. Will do.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
So much fun watching you work, but bye. I gotta eat.